I am Dr. Heather Moore, owner of Total Performance Physical Therapy. Tonight we're going to talk about how electronics are physically damaging your child and physically causing them harm. First, I'm going to kind of give a little sidebar here to all the parents. You know, I'm a parent of 3, and they say 2 hours of screen time a day. That's computers, that's TV, and that's iPads. So I had a good friend who's a pediatrician recently, asked me, how realistic is that? She doesn't have any children. And I said, it is not realistic at all. There are some days where my kids have 0 hours. They don't watch a lick of TV. They don't do any of their electronics. And then there's some days where it's 6 hours if I need to get things done, or it's a rainy day, or, it's a Sunday and we're just relaxing. So it is not realistic to limit your child to 2 hours of screen time of a day. I mean, I get notes home from school that we have homework to do on the computer. So it's not something that's set in stone for that 2 hours. And most parents can relate that that's just an unrealistic number. By the time they get done their homework and electronics and things like that, it is really hard to limit their time for 2 hours a day. Now, none of my children have their own phones, even though they are very sad about that. They do not have. Mainly my little one, Addison, but she'll get over it.
I don't care.
Oh, you don't care.
About having a phone.
Oh, okay. So so everyone in my house is sad they don't have a phone, but they do not spend time on their phone, and that's another component where it really adds up. As I see kids walking around and they're walking with their heads down looking at their phones, the physical harm that they are causing themselves adds up. And it's, we ignore it because parents and their kids, and they're going to bounce back. But in all reality, there have been no studies. There have been no ability to do long-term studies because the people who are, my age and older did not have devices growing up. We were not hunched over like this. We were not on our computers. I didn't have any computer homework assignments until much later. I did my college applications on a typewriter. So, we don't have the long-term studies to show how bad this is physically for our children. But just in watching my own home and watching my own children, and I know, how they should be, it really is damaging. And so we're going to go through what you need to look for tonight. And really, I don't care about the 2 hours. You do you as a parent. It's tough. It's hard. We've got a billion things going on. Some days it's 2 hours, some days it's 6. Don't worry about that so much. What you need to really worry about is how they're sitting, how their posture is, what they look like. This is more damaging than anything. So Aubrey's going to demonstrate here. So this is not an unusual posture in my house to find everyone on their iPad, slumped on the couch, slumped in a chair, and everyone is bent over and hunched over their iPads, something like this. Now, sometimes we've got the iPad on and the TV going too. I mean, that's how good of a mom I am. We've got 2 electronic devices going. So it's really awesome. What happens is I'm going to turn Aubrey here in the chair so everyone can see kind of the side view. So here we have this curve. We got a humpback going. Now, most people are going to say, well, I look at my kid, they stand up straight, they're not going to be a humpback. Well, give them a couple years, give them 20 years, this becomes a humpback, okay, because their bones are forming right now. And extended periods of time in this position cause them to form in this position. What else is happening in this position? Their discs in their neck, okay, are starting to herniate. So their discs are going backwards. They're starting to impinge on some of those nerves. If your kid has ever said to you, my hands are numb, or I have tingling, or my hand fell asleep. Yes, it could be the funny bone, or it could be a little bit of numbness and tingling, but if they've been sitting in this posture, they're starting on a herniated disc. And it's most likely that disc that is interfering, or that disc that's causing that numbness and tingling. After numbness and tingling becomes weakness. So it kind of progresses all the way down. Not only this, but what happens is you are also cutting off the blood supply to your brain in this position. And especially if you start to look up at the TV in this hunched position. So we have this, your shoulders are rolled forward, you're hunched over, but then you curve your neck up. You're actually putting yourself at risk for a stroke. You're cutting off the blood supply. You are making yourself tired. Your child gets headaches. This is why. This is 100% why. So if they have a laptop, if they have an iPad, and you find them in this position, I know next year we have a middle schooler on our hands who's getting a laptop. Laptops are horrible. They cannot be set up, or they cannot be set up without extra components to be ergonomically correct. If your child is getting a laptop, which a lot of middle schools and high schools are now doing, they must either have a separate keyboard or a separate monitor, because the monitor has to be eye level, or the keyboard has to be right here in order for the correct position to happen. Now what's happening here also is the front of her chest is now collapsing, all right? So all of these muscles that are in the front of her chest are now becoming shortened. So now she's not able to breathe as effectively. If you have a child that plays sports, they get out of breath. This is because a lot of times their chest can't expand enough, because now they're starting to develop this rib cage, these muscles that are compressing, and it's not allowing the full expansion of the breath. Not to mention, all of these muscles back here from sitting like this are becoming weak. Now, I know this is going to be a lot of arguments with parents when my kids play sports. They're not weak back there. I guarantee you they are, because your kids are practicing 2 to 4 hours a day and are then on their phone like this, on their electronics, some form of devices, probably for 8. If your child has a phone, they're on it for at least 15 minutes every single hour. That adds up, and most of the time it's way more than 15 minutes. So these muscles are now becoming extremely weak. That hinders posture, that hinders the ability to sit up straight, that hinders the ability to play athletics, and just to have a healthy spine. So that is kind of how most parents will find their children. Also, when you're sloped forward like this, you're cutting off the blood supply to your shoulder. If we have any swimmers, volleyball players, any of those overhead athletes that complain of shoulder pain, baseball players, people who suffer from shoulder pain because they're playing sports, and then they spend their time slumped over. And Aubrey's no different. As I'm pointing everything out, she's correcting it. That's what everybody does, and then I walk away and they don't do it anymore. But as you slump over, you're actually cutting off the blood supply to your shoulder. You're endangering your rotator cuff, and you're not allowing it to heal. So if you've had an extremely hard practice or a hard game, and you've thrown a lot of pitches, or you've really done a lot of yardage when it comes to swimming, and then you go and you sit like this, or you're on your phone, and your shoulders are completely collapsed forward, and you've stopped the blood flow, your muscles can't recover. You're going to start to fray that rotator cuff. You're going to jam that muscle in between these two bones. You're going to get impingement syndrome. So most of the time when I start to work on a shoulder, or we talk to overhead athletes, we really try to instill posture, because at the older ages, it is really important that they stay out of this position, okay? Not to mention, slumped in this position, you have got a weak core. Your stomach is just hanging out. There's nothing being tucked in. There's no ability. When you sit like this, you are putting the second highest amount of pressure on the discs in your lumbar spine. Again, if your kids, if they stand up and they have numbness and tingling in their feet, if their foot goes numb, it's because they're starting to herniate discs in their back. All right, now this happens to be a straight back chair. We don't have many of these in our house. It's a couch. So there's a nice C curve going on in the backs of the children. So they're herniating their neck, they're herniating their back. So it's really important that you try to get everyone in a habit. If they're going to sit like this, and I understand you're not, we're parents, we're busy, get them to move every 15 minutes. Have them set alarms. I have alarms going off all day in my house on iPads. I'm not sure why they go off, but they do, because I don't know.
Sets random alarms.
She does. So we need to set alarms to make sure that they're getting up, or that they're changing position, or the most amount of time that they should spend in this is 15 minutes. Then they need to change. So I'm going to show you a good posture. It's not the best, but let's face it, we all have kids, and we aren't getting them to sit up straight and in proper chairs anyway. So But if you have a chair like this, what they can do is they can scoot their butt all the way forward. Okay, now this one's on wheels, so it's a little bit harder. And then they're just gonna, Aubrey's gonna slide and put her back there. So now just by doing this, she's automatically straightened out her back. So this has caused her to have a flat back. Now she's still a little rounded up here, but it's supported. Her shoulders are back. And then what she's gonna do is she's actually gonna raise, keep her arms here, and she is gonna raise her iPad up to her level, right? So the neck has now gone into a little less of a curved position. Again, you're not going to sit like this at work and feel good. This is not 100%, but this is a little bit better than having them sit like this, having them text like this all day long. Pushing that butt forward is going to allow that back to straighten out. It's going to give the upper back some support. It's going to put these shoulders in better position. Her arms now have support. The iPad is now up to eye level, so she's able to see it. Finding positions and things like this in your house for your children to sit at is imperative. Like I said, no long-term studies have been done, nor can they be, because devices have not been out that long to understand the absolute danger that we are putting our children in physically with this. Most of you who work at computers can understand how much your body hurts at the end of the day, how much you go through just from sitting at a computer, how much pain sitting or driving has caused you. Now, put that on your child. They're doing that since they've been born, since they've, learned how to walk. So it's really important that not necessarily the time that they spend on the screen. I mean, that's a whole other argument and one that I am not prepared to fight. But it is really important that you pay attention to how they are positioned and their posture.